Aloha everyone, Joshua Hayes at bigwavetrading.com. This is going to be a freemium version of the video lesson. So for members, I apologize. We're going to rehash some things. And then for those that watch on YouTube or social media, you're going to get a little bit more than what you probably want to see. And it might be overwhelming, but just to remind you, it's not overwhelming for me. Keep the best, discard the rest is what I always say. So with that being said, let's just get into it. I took 2 day trades today. Both were successful. Both were in the chat, called out in the chat room. Actually, the second one wasn't, but that's because I knew that it probably didn't have a whole lot of upside. But the first one, just want to explain what I saw on VVUS. VVUS was my first day trade. You could see it gapped up in the morning, consolidated well. It popped on heavier volume, and I did not like the pull on this bigger candle. But when it broke out to new highs on volume that was heavier than the volume on that sell-off, it became of major interest to me. We had the 9 EMA and VWAP cross shortly after on the 3-minute chart. And when VVUS traded 1 cent above the high of this candle at 335, I went long, rode this move on the way up, partialed out as it came back down, took some more profits around here. And then I held a piece until later in the day. And of course, as I posted in the chat room, I sold some right when it crossed above 4. So basically a 20% gain from my entry to my biggest sell up here. The final sell then was a move below VWAP that was at 350, and I exited the trade completely right before the close. The only other day trade I took was an NTLA. I was looking for NTLA after its push to consolidate and find support at the old highs. It dipped down and did not do that, but when it came back near the old highs right here, it had tried to flush down below the 9 and 21, immediately retook it. That's when I went long. It tried to dip back lower, but my final cut loss was right there. And of course, as it hit new highs, I started to scale out with less than 1% gain. And as everybody saw in the chat room, I posted selling more when it was slightly up under 2%, but I sold it when it went to new highs. You'll see here, no volume on that push to new highs. And if a stock in this day and age, intraday, isn't making a move to new highs on heavier volume, you got to be a seller. Hence why I was selling VVUS. Nice volume on the move to new highs, right? But what happened shortly after? Do you see another tall volume bar? Let's see if I can do this right. Rectangle. Like you want to see another bar like this. And oh, I got to press it again. And then you want to see another volume bar like that. So if you don't see that, then you don't want to be long. And besides that, there is one disappointing trade. How about my swing trade idea in WAFU? Unfortunately, my good to cancel buy stop limit order was at 201, and it blew right past it and did not fill me. Triggered, no fill. What happened from 201 to the highs? Only a 60 to 70% move. Congratulations. If anyone happened to get filled out there on WAFU, I did not. Wah, F you. That's what it said to me. Big deal. Moving on. Auto trading. I've been practicing this week with auto trading setup. And even though it's not available right now on Trade Ideas, they are working with E-Trade to try to make this a thing with them. Right now, they only link up with Interactive Brokers. Interactive Brokers, I get charged a commission. You cannot link it up to IBKR Lite. You can only do the Pro version, which is what I use. But I'm working on their simulator using the break-even method, the $0 loss method. And I want to tell you what, guys, my auto trading, day trading methodology, the window that I connected it to today that I've created, it took 11 trades today. It was right on only 2 of them. Only PBYI worked at the open, filled me immediately at the open, moved up 35%. And then a stock that I already have a position in, MX, it worked, made that move higher by only 1%. And I started to partial it out as soon as I saw it move higher because it was late in the day, didn't want to hold it. And then I moved my stop to break even because initially my smart stop is well below break even. After it fills, I look at it. If it pulls back, I move the smart stop slightly to below the most recent support area. If it moves higher immediately, I move my final stop to break even. When MX filled, I immediately moved the stop to break even. And as you can see, only a 1% gain on that one before I started to take profits. And on PBYI, this one is the one that made the big move. Why is this important? Because out of those 11 trades, the 2 I just showed you were the only 2 that were profitable. The other 9 left me at break even or small losses, meaning I was only right on 2 out of the 11 trades. What kind of win-loss ratio is that? It's going to be slightly under 20%, yet it finished in the green. 11 trades, 2 winners, the rest losers or break even, and I ended in the green. So anytime somebody tells me about what's your win-loss percentage, it always blows my mind because you're asking the wrong question. It's always about pain to gain with that win-loss ratio. And even in this methodology, by the way, this 2 for 11 doesn't cut it for me. This is a terrible 20%, does not cut it, does not work for me. I was just testing out this one certain alert window on my end today, but it just goes to prove, even with under a 20% win-loss ratio, I left with gains because of this one stock. So just keep that in mind as we're moving forward. And with that, let's now move into the indices. Nice day for the SPY today. It took me officially out of all of my SPY hedges that I had on. Small losses, basically break even on half, small losses on the rest. I still have some hedges out there, but I've basically been knocked out of them all. But my biggest problem with this current uptrend right now is I want to show you guys, even though that we're hitting new highs, I'm not quite sure we are out of the woods yet, because even though the SPY has made new highs, you can see MACD still has lower highs, RSI has lower highs, stochastics lower highs, TSV lower highs, PPO lower highs. Yes, short term, they're going in the right direction, but there is negative divergence now between price and all of these oscillators. That's a huge red flag to me, and I want to remind everybody on a monthly basis, my TSV is still negative, and even though the others are positive, until this time segment volume indicator on a monthly basis turns positive, I simply cannot be uber bullish about any move whatsoever in the market. I expect it will remain choppy. If we do continue higher, it's going to be more of that V-shape, choppy, lack of ebb and flow move higher. And I mean, this goes for everything. And this is one of my big, I know this chart is very noisy, guys. In fact, let me go ahead and switch it to Telechart version 7. So now we're on Telechart version 7, and you can see here another V-shaped move to new highs with volume decreasing. It's just unbelievable. Like I said in yesterday's video lesson, this is the new norm. Up is down, down is up. Heavier volume sell-offs are good. Lower volume sell-offs are bad. Lower volume moves higher is good. Heavier volume moves higher is bad. It's the craziest shit, but it's the way that the market works right now. But notice once again, I do not have the Russell 2000 leading. I've got a very small select stocks leading. Look at the QQQ at new highs. Look at the DIA almost at new highs. It's a very small basket of stock, big cap stocks that are making this market move higher. And I don't know how this is going to end, but I assume I'm going to get another round of hedge signals at some point when we do reverse. And I want to also show that short term, look at the MACD line, moving average convergence divergence line, you know, on the daily. That's not bullish, guys. This is bullish. This is bullish. That's not bullish. So once again, the crazy weird price is all that matters to me. Price is king. Price is my God. Price is the only thing that affects my profit and loss statement. So it's all I care about. But I just want to show you how wacky this market is. Look at the SPY, MACD moving lower, but SPY moving higher. TSV has crossed, but like I said, negative divergences everywhere, and more importantly, the IWM super lagging right now. Strong markets. This is the index that leads. So a lot of weird issues right now. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there with the indices. Now on the long side, very busy day on my end. But that being said, here's another hint that things might not be working right. This is the first time during this entire uptrend of 2019 that the market has hit new highs, but I am not fully invested in my end of day account. In fact, I'm heading into Thursday's session with 13% cash on hand still. And that 13% cash on hand is despite all of these names triggering and filling today. I only got a partial fill on ELMD. It worked. I'll be adding a stop 1 cent below today's low of day. So for ELMD, I remember I'm long from a long time ago. 1, 2, 3, 4 stops on ELMD at those lows. Then the OSS filled. Sure didn't do a whole lot of anything. So for now, 1, 2, 3 stops on OSS. Remember, as always, everybody's different. If you want to be aggressive, a close below that uptrend line, you can bail on the position. Same thing with ELMD. Close below this uptrend line, you can bail on this position if it reverses. Then I had MRIC filled. It did nothing. 1 stop here, 2nd stop here. 50%, 100%. You could also do another quarter here and a quarter here if you want to give it room to work. But if you went in with size and or a new trader, there's your uptrend line. A close below it, you'll get out. Then CALX filled for me. 1, 2, 3, 4 are my stops. Once again, though, if you went with size, like I said, it's a very busy, noisy day on my end. There's your uptrend line. A close below it, you'd get out. PAC filled with me. 50% now goes here. 50% is right there. TNXP added to my position. Adding a stop here. 1, 2, 3 stops on TNXP now. MRSN filled. Notice it didn't go anywhere. Putting a stop here. 1, 2, 3 stops on MRSN now. PRTY filled. It still looks fine. Currently 1 stop, 2 stop. But like everything else I keep showing, there's your uptrend line. A close below it if you went in with size or you're a new trader. And that's when you'll get out. And ELA, I added to my position today. 210 is when I filled. This was the winner of the day, 9%. I'll be adding a stop here. I have stops working all the way to back here since this is where I originally got long at with ELA. So that's all that filled on my end. Sadly, the one that did the best today didn't fill. This was the signal date right here. It would have been that day, right? Right there. It would have been this day, 201. Hammer candle over candle. Heavier volume than the session before. Max green bop. Never failed at signal, even though it lost its green bop. And then bam, today. What a runner. Oh, well, it sucks. Anyway, that takes us to the new quality long positions. And I remember everybody keeps saying, you know, I get a lot of complaints from people that subscribe and unsubscribe to the site. And they're like, you have too many stocks for me. Guys, every watch list, I tell you what my priority selections are. And I've made it clear. The days that we only get 1 or 2 signals, it doesn't mean those are 1 and 2 signals only. Those must be the best signals in the market all in. It's more like, hey man, we only have 1 signal today. The best days come when I get 10 long selections to pick from that give me legit actionable signals. I then tell you out of those 10 which one I like the best. But I still right now in this market treat them all the same. I don't pick one over the other. But if you'll notice, after everybody's been complaining about all the long signals, the past 2 weeks, we sure haven't had a whole lot of quality, have we? We've been averaging about 1 or 2 a day. Those 1 or 2 a day sure aren't doing anything. The one yesterday, FLWS, this one gapped up a little bit in the morning. You all know, I don't buy a stock unless it trades up and through my stop limit level, which was 1587. A gap up at 1589 doesn't qualify. So when I see that it gaps up at 1589, I cancel my order and call it back on only when the bid asking price is back below 1587. Once that happened on FLWS, I called it back on. Guess what? Didn't trade back up and through the price the rest of the session. It hasn't failed yet, but at the same time, I'm not long FLWS right now because it didn't trigger up and through. That being said, this signal does not fail until it closes below this low right here on either heavier above average volume or losing that green bop. And right now, green bop is moving up. So FLWS still has a chance. Sticking with that theme, I also might give you a long signal like I gave everyone SQQQ this weekend. But if it doesn't trade up and through 2056 we don't get long. SQQ gaps down the next session. Never triggers, fails basically right here, but I keep it on because it still has green bop. But after today's session, it has now failed that low while losing green bop. Right now, I'm doing this right now on my other computers. SQQ, I'm canceling that buy and removing SQQQ from my trader workstation buy tab. So no longer is SQQQ on the books to be traded by me. So that trade didn't trigger. FLWS gapped up, pulled back in, never traded back up and through to trigger. So remember, I might have 3 signals this evening that are quality, but it's possible none trigger, then it's no new long positions. It's possible they all gap up and run. I don't get filled on any of them. Or it's possible they all 3 filled. I'm going to tell you which one I like the best. You guys ready? First one, MSTR. This came from my tertiary scan. It's a higher price stock. It is illiquid, so it's always possible it doesn't fill, but I do like the setup. It's an earnings winner. Tested the gap, the open gap area, and has moved higher since. 2.3% of its float is short with the very tight risk parameters based on the previous uptrend. Let's say that I can only get an uptrend move like this of 10%. What do I risk if I'm wrong with that 10%? Right around 2%. Let's even increase it to 3%. I'm looking at over a greater than 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio. That's all I look for with these signals. Signal is a signal is a signal to me. So MSTR, I have a hammer candle over candle pattern on heavier above average volume with increasing green bop. Good enough for me, especially with earnings out of the way. The trigger is 153.32, up and through 153.32. If it triggers and doesn't fill and runs without me, so be it. If it gaps up, I don't want it until it trades back below 153.32 in a proper orderly fashion. Then I'll call it back on. And if it never triggers, if it closes below this low right here on heavier above average volume or while losing the green bop, then we cancel the trade idea. If MSTR fills, my first cut loss level, yesterday's low a day, 150.45, my final cut loss level, 149. Combined, that's about going to be right around a 2% loss with that previous 10% gain on just that little uptrend previous measured move. That's a 5-to-1 reward risk ratio. That's why I'm taking MSTR. Nothing more, nothing less. Then we have DECK. DECK is actually canceling quality. It's an earnings winner, has 6.7% of its float short, is number 2 in its industry group, 96, 86, 89 AAB ratings in IBD. Good enough for me. Here's the game plan with DECK. Hammer candle over candle, engulfing hammer candle over candle, heavier above average volume, green bop, 193.27 is my good to cancel buy stop and limit level. My first cut loss level personally for me, 185.57. Maybe you make that your only cut loss level, but I'm willing to give the stock a little bit of room to work. And so my final cut loss level is this high day right here, a gap fill at 180. So MSTR, I like. DECK, I like more because it's canceling quality. EYE, I like the best overall in terms of price pattern, volume pattern, bop pattern following the gap up here in November. Now, I still has earnings out there. I got 226 on FinViz. I got 3.5 on IBD. Let me bring up Trade Ideas and see what Trade Ideas says. Where's my single stock window on Trade Ideas? Where is it? There it is. Let's see what they say for I. Earnings, February 26th. So we got time. But I have a hammer candle pattern right at the strong price support in the 50-day moving average on a heavier above average volume with a nice steady increase in bop to a higher green level. I is canceling quality. It's number 1 in its industry group, has an 86 composite, 92 EPS, and 88 relative strength rating in IBD. But what do I like the best about it? It's always what I like the best about a stock. It has a high short float. In fact, its short float is almost 10%. Perfect. So with I, the game plan is 34.28 is my stop. 34.28 is my limit. If I am wrong, my cut loss levels personally is going to be 33.22. And maybe you only make that your only cut loss level. Maybe you make it the 50-day SMA. I'm not you. Depends on how much capital you put into this trade. And then my final stop loss on I is going to be 31.40. So 33.22 if I get filled, then 31.40. I like I the best because it's canceling quality and 9.5% of its float is short. If DECK had, let's say, 20% of its float short, this would be my favorite for Thursday. Now, all that being said, DECK may do nothing on Thursday. I might not do anything on Thursday, and MSTR might be the one that moves 20%. That's why I try to take them all. All right, everyone, 20 minutes in. Going to wrap it up. Aloha.